Hey folks, here we are for game 2 with the Simic Storm list. Thracios and Kydel. I did not win the die roll this time. Lord Cypher did. He's playing Rune. We also have Mogis and Volrath. And my hand's not spectacular. I mean, it's okay. I could, play a couple of lands and play Helm of Awakening, then Time Twister and hopefully find some gas with Helm of Awakening in play. But I have too many lands in my hand, and I have this giant card that I don't want in my starter hand. So I decided to ship this hand in search of a better, more explosive start. And this hand is much better. So I decided to keep it. It's got fast mana. I got Green Sun Zenith, which once I get Thracios and Kydel in play, can get Seedborn Muse to untap all my permanents and accrue a lot of card advantage, and that goes great with Mana Drain, and Eternal Witness to get something back if I want to, so it seems pretty good. Rune player plays a turn 1 Sensei's Divining Top. Volrath plays a Swamp and passes. On my first turn, I just play Sol Ring. I decided to keep the Chrome Mox in hand because I don't really need it for anything at this exact moment. I suppose I could have played a turn 1 Thracios, but I like all the cards in my hand too much. I don't really feel like playing that Chrome Mox right now to gain, a very explosive 1 extra mana to play Thracios. I mean, in the long run, it might have been a good idea, but I decided I'm just going to keep the Chrome Mox in hand, play it a little slower. Hopefully I'll find a card that I don't care about as much that I can put under it. So he plays land passes, plays Illusionist Bracers. Pretty interesting with Rune. If it isn't if an ability of equipped creature is activated, if it isn't a mana ability, you copy the ability. So it works great with Rune. You can flicker things twice. He just plays a land and passes. I draw a Candelabra, which is pretty good. And here I just play Kydel. It's the most efficient use of my mana, and it sets up the best for future turns. Mogis plays a Talisman of Indulgence, ramping up the mana. Rune does not have green yet, but he just played a Commander Sphere, so now he has green. And he activates the top, probably looking for a green source, so that he can play Rune next turn, or some other powerful threats. What is Volrath doing? He plays Beseech the Queen. It's a tutor that allows you to search for a card with equal to or less than the number of lands you control. It's a pretty underplayed tutor. I think this is a fine one, especially if you're running a low curve deck. I mean, this could be expensive for a tutor, cost 3 or whatever, but same price as Grim Tutor. It doesn't give you damage or whatever. It doesn't hurt you when you cast it. It seems like a fine spell to me, especially on those low to the ground combo decks. So here I draw a land, pretty good, and I play Thracios. Then I activate Thracios. Find a Mind Spring on top, I ship it to the bottom, and I find a Grim Monolith, which is not a bad pickup, honestly. If I can get a Paradox Engine going here soon, which the long way to do that is Merchant Scroll for Mystical Tutor, for Fabricate, for Paradox Engine, but that's not exactly within my grasp at this exact moment, I don't think. It's going to take me a couple of turns to set that up. Mogis player plays Spiteful Visions, which seems pretty good in his deck. It's kind of like, seems like it'd be good in a Nekuzar deck as well. It does very similar to what Nekuzar does. The only way that it's different than Nekuzar is that Nekuzar is not symmetrical, whereas this thing is symmetrical. It hurts everybody the same. So Rune player plays a Green Sun Zenith for 3, and he gets a Coiling Oracle, probably trying to hit some lands. He ends up revealing Karmic Guide, which is probably not what he wanted. I think he was trying to get some lands in play. I mean, he's still got the same amount of mana as everybody else. It's not like he's that behind or anything, but he just wants to get out there faster. I would too. So the Volrath player plays Dauthi Embrace. I don't know if that's how you say that, but I think I'm going to say Dauthi on that one. And it gives a creature shadow for 2 black. Interesting choice. I wonder if that's the card he searched for. I guess he can make this guy giant and then attack for over 21 potentially with enough cards and mana. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what he's doing over there. I draw some extra cards and get hurt a little bit for it, which is fine for now with me. because that's what my deck does. It draws cards. That thing's gonna hurt me no matter what I do. So here I get Green Sun Zenith for 5. Get the obvious choice, Seedborn Muse. That way I can get lots of cards, and I have Mana Drain open the whole time if somebody tries to stop me. And I tap for Merchant Scroll to get Cyclonic Rift. I could have played an Artifact Ramp, but I already have plenty of mana sources in play. I could have also played the Chrome Mox here and potentially got another activation out of Thrasios, depending on how many cards I draw and how much mana I get on Kydele. But what I'm imagining here is that I will be able to tap my creatures and my mana and artifacts to draw cards with Thrasios over the next couple of turns, and at his end step I can Cyclonic Rift. So that way, no matter what the board looks like next turn, I will have a lot of goodies in hand, and I'll have a Cyclonic Rift that I can use at any moment. What I was thinking here is, I'm pretty protected. They're tapped out unless he has a 1-mana removal spell for Seedborn Muse. Right now, I'm going to be in a pretty good position because I'll have Mana Drain up, and the only thing I'm going to Mana Drain is something that disrupts what I'm doing or wins the game. That is it. I have no intentions of using this Mana Drain on any kind of medium spell or anything like what I've seen so far. So I decide I'm just going to sit on it, pass with open mana. He plays a Gilded Lotus, Mogus does, and he plays a Zosu the Punisher. So in response, I decide, his turn's almost over, I don't think he's going to do anything else. I decide to activate Thrasios in case I find lands, to go ahead and get those land drops out of the way now, because it will damage me here in a moment once I let this resolve. So I decide to go ahead and do that, and I find a land, I activate again, and I find an Ancient Tomb, and I decide to keep that, because that's another half a Thrasios activation. Seems pretty good. And by the time it gets around to his turn, I'd like to have the ability to activate a bunch of times. And those lands did not hurt me because of my Sync with Sing. So the Rune player plays 1,000 Year Elixir, another awesome card with Rune. So he can flicker a lot with all the synergies he has here. It's pretty cool. I played a Rune deck on paper, and I did a lot of similar things. I had like Karma Guide, and I think I had Coiling Oracle. I did not run these cards, any 3 of these. But Rune's a sweet deck. It's really fun. I enjoyed my time playing Rune. It's my favorite color combination, which is Bant. Thus the name Bantastic. So here at his end step, I decide I'm going to draw more cards. I find Paradox Engine on top. I keep it on top. Because next turn I will no longer need to do the Seedborn Muse thing, and hopefully I will be able to win the game on the spot with Paradox Engine. I find a land on top, ship it to the bottom, and find Lightning Greaves, which is fine. It's just a cheap spell, and it generates mana with Paradox Engine. And to not take extra damage for no reason, I decide to tap Kydele and my other 2 lands, and not Ancient Tomb, to activate again. I find a land on top, and I ship it to get Carpet of Flowers. The intention of, at his turn, at his end step, I'm going to cast Cyclonic Rift, Overloaded, and then proceed to go off on my turn. He plays Liliana Vess. Again, I'm not going to Mana Drain that. This card searches for a card, but it puts it on top. I don't care if he makes me discard a card, and if he tutors, I don't need to counter this. Like, I can just counter whatever he gets. And I'm about to Cyclonic Rift this. So this kind of like loses him a draw, I guess, depending on what he tutors for. I mean, I guess in theory he could tutor for something uncounterable like a land, but I'm just not worried about it at all. So I decided to let him do that. And at end of turn, I cast Cyclonic Rift, Overloaded, and then I activate Thrasios. Seeing a land on top, I ship it to the bottom, and I find a Time Spiral, which is just perfect with the setup that I just did. That was one of the reasons why I decided to get Cyclonic Rift, is I was hoping with all my card activations that I was going to be able to find a wheel effect and do Cyclonic Wheel, which is exactly what's going on here. But I have pretty decent knowledge of what's in their hand right now, so I might not even cast this wheel. So I play Paradox Engine, then I play Chrome Mox, untapping all my stuff. With the Candelabra, I can turn this colorless mana into green and blue mana if I would like, which is a plus. finally play the Chrome Mox and put Carpet of Flowers underneath it because it only nets me 1 land, and this will net me more lands, more than 1 mana over the course of this turn. So I decided I'm going to go ahead and put the Carpet of Flowers under there. Normally I like to put a blue card under here because I need blue mana more than I need green mana, especially when I'm going off. But all these blue cards are awesome, and I don't want to get rid of them. I can't exile these artifacts, and I might want to Eternal Witness at some point. So I decided that I'm just going to do Carpet of Flowers. Play Cold Steel Heart. Name blue on this one, so now I have green and blue sources of artifact ramp. Play Eternal Witness. Here we do that line that I discussed earlier, which is Merchant Scroll. Cast it. To get Mystical Tutor. Cast Mystical Tutor after floating a bunch of mana, of course. To get Fabricate. Then activate Thrasios. Get Fabricate. Play Fabricate. And get Aetherflux Reservoir. And now the game's pretty locked up. I have a bunch of activations of Thrasios. I have an Aetherflux Reservoir. If I want to, I can Time Spiral. I have Mana Drain up. If they can somehow do something, like, I think he's the only person who will do anything meaningful. This guy could have a Slaughter Pact, or either one of these players could have like a Slaughter Pact or something, but I probably wouldn't even counter that right now. Like, what are they going to kill? I could just recast everything that they kill. So I'm only worried about something like a Force of Will, which I don't think this guy has, or a Pact of Negation or something like that. But even if he does, I have Mana Drain, so I feel like I'm in a pretty good spot. And if I can resolve this Aetherflux Reservoir, I mean, that's the spell to counter. Like, if you're going to counter something, you got to counter this. If not, then I'm likely going to win. So, and I was really happy that these players were cool about what was going on here. Like, no one has conceded yet. A lot of people probably would normally concede in this situation. These guys were good sports. So I activate Thrasios. I find a Deep Analysis. I cast Deep Analysis. Getting more mana and cards. Find Helm of Awakening. Make more mana. Get more Storm accrued. Then play Thirst for Knowledge. Discarding 2 lands. Now I have a Flusterstorm as well. And time to activate Thrasios again. Find a land, ship it to the bottom. Find Regrowth, which is all I need to win. Which I'm pretty sure I would have been fine either way, but I just Regrowth for Merchant Scroll. Merchant Scroll for Stroke of Genius. And decide to draw not an insane amount of cards. I don't deck myself, but I guess this is an insane amount to some people. I mean, it honestly is an insane amount of cards, but I draw 40 cards with 114 in my life, and a bunch of Storm, and a bunch of spells in hand. It's very likely that I will be able to win the game from this position. It's almost impossible for me to fizzle. So I cast High Tide just to generate Storm, then cast Training Grounds, and the final spell that I cast is Mana Vault. And then I proceed to shoot everyone for 50 damage. And that was all for this game. I hope you enjoyed.